Okay, Blighty Boxing with Frank Warren and Queensberry Promotions. We're here with a major stakeholder in the Queensberry enterprise, Francis Warren. How are you, Francis?
Very well, thanks, mate. How are you?
Very good. Now, it's a timely moment to catch up with you because you've been a little bit in the news lately with the launch of another arm of the business, Queensberry Poland. Explain the thinking behind it, how it came about, how long it's been in the making.
It's been a couple of years. We've got a good partner over in Poland, Mariusz Krasinski, who's a very successful businessman, avid boxing fan, and off his own back he contacted us and said that he would like for us to promote a couple of the fighters that he managed, and that's how it started originally. We put a few of the guys on, and one in Leeds, there was a Lithuanian kid, Elvidas. And we sort of said, well, you know, what about doing some shows in Poland with you? You know, if you're that much for, you know, if you want to see, you know, be involved in boxing, there's no better place than to do it at home. And he agreed, but we said from the get-go, we're not doing this without television, with real sponsorship, with real fighters. So we've spent the last couple of years, you know, building those relationships with some managers over there, some gyms in Poland. We've got a terrific director of boxing, Fyodor Lapin, who's a very, very well respected trainer in Poland. Looks after Blighty and Meta, and has had, you know, numerous other champions in his stable. So, you know, we've got him on board for, you know, to make sure that we attract the best young amateur talent coming through the Polish ranks, as well as a couple of UK-based guys. One managed by Chris Sanagar and Pavel Augustin. Yeah. And another guy managed by Kev Marie, Rizard Lewicki, who's based up in Middlesbrough, who was a standout amateur for Poland a few years ago. He's actually headlined as an amateur on Polsat, which leads me on to who our broadcaster is. As I said, you know, we weren't ever going to do this without TV. TV is king in boxing. If you want to, you know, if you wanted to put on the size of shows that we want to put on, and you know, very, very delighted to say that we've got a deal with Polsat. It's a multi-year deal, multi-shows per year, and yeah, first one's 21st November.
Is the fact that you've done this organically and you've given it the time to develop, will that help it stand the test of time, if you like? The fact that, like you say, you've made sure that all the boxes are ticked and filled as you go along before you've actually launched it.
Yeah. Well, it's strange to launch any business, I suppose, in the current, you know, climate. But, you know, it's a testament to Mariusz in particular, who's really battled on through the last 6 months. Because, you know, originally we were going to start this in March, April. But, you know, he's managed to keep it going over lockdown, and we've managed to sign some really good fighters over the quiet period. And yeah, I mean, the fact that it's sort of started from a conversation about putting a couple of his fighters that he managed on. You know, one was on the Warrington undercard in Leeds, and I think another guy was due to fight in Poland, then come and have his second fight here.
Stevenage? Yeah,
Stevenage, and it just didn't materialise in the end. But his name's Abdulkai Sharakmatov, who's I've been practising that.
Getting all your Zs in.
Yeah, I'm getting them all in there. Yeah. First time I said it, someone said "bless you." But yeah, I mean, he's very, very, very highly touted amateur from Uzbekistan. We signed a few other guys, which I'm not going to talk about at the moment. But you know, they are. There's another Uzbekistan fighter that we've signed, and we're in talks to sign a few Kazakhs as well. So we want to make Poland a bit of a hub for that neck of the woods, and you know, bring them through to, you know, and a couple of them will come and fight on the UK shows as well.
You seem quite enthused by the project, which is good to see. Is it sort of reinvigorated you?
It's fun because it's brand new. You know, we've got a fantastic promotions company here, fantastic partner in BT Sport, and we've got fantastic fighters, and it's just another, like you said, it's another string to our bow. But I really think that we can make Poland one of the big players in world boxing. A lot of the fighters that you get to a certain point, I mentioned Blighty and Meta, you know, you look at Kalinaki as well, you know, they all have to go to the States or come over here, or, you know, very few of them ever had their world title opportunity in Poland. and that's something that's kind of one of the ambitions of mine is to get guys in 15, 20 fights, get them up the world rankings, and have their fights in Poland, because that's how you build your fan base. You know, you get to a certain. I mean, I mentioned Warrington, for example. His fan base built with the titles he won. So you know, at the end of the day, it's about keeping guys locked in with their local fans and building it up as much as possible. And TV get behind it more. If we can get Pavel Augustin, I know he lives in the West Country, but his roots are in Poland. If we can get him in 5 or 6 fights time challenging for European or world titles, you know, you're going to see some great reaction from Polsat, from the Polish media, and from the fans.
I think probably people who are into boxing have maybe thought to themselves over the years, if only there was a young, I don't know what the term is, British, Polish kid who turned out to be really good, and imagine the support they would get from the huge Polish community in the UK. By comparison, you see what...
That's phase 2.
You see that Albanian lunatic, you see the following he gets in London from all the Albanians, and you think Polish would be 10, 20 times bigger. Is this kind of what you're thinking of with Rizard, if you can make him take off in that way? Well,
yeah, I mean, as I said, you know, it helps us from Polsat's, you know, from the Polish TV side of things, that Rizard's already been on Polsat. So the idea is to get his foundation year done in Poland.
The London Poles have access to that as well.
Exactly, exactly. So that's the aim for Rizard. And then we'll, you know, the guys will come back and fight a couple of times here, a couple of times in Poland, and we'll mix it up. But yeah, for sure. I mean, Queensberry Poland will be doing shows in London at some point, but obviously we need the fans back. We need the fans back.
Yeah.
You know, to make it, you know, a viable operation. However, saying that, you know, they are based in the UK. They do train in the UK, both Pavel and Rizard. So they do want to have that experience of fighting over here as well. I mean, Pavel's got a British licence, so he qualifies to fight for a British title, which would be quite interesting.
Yeah. I know you look after all the fighters with great care, but I want to ask you about a few fighters that are specifically attached to you, who are going great guns, it has to be said. I mean, the first one that springs to mind is Lynn, featherweight, Tyro. I mean, how exciting to watch is he? And he looks like, I said to your dad early on, he's always reminded me of a young Josh Warrington, but a young Josh that can punch. You know, he's very exciting.
Louis is one of the nicest people I've met, you know, full stop. He's an absolutely lovely man, works his backside off non-stop, and
with enthusiasm.
Yeah, and you know, it's like watching, you know, watching a kid at Christmas every single day. You know, when you speak to him, he's just enthused about absolutely everything. He'll be fighting for a WBC international silver title in his next fight as well. So
he's on the next show, isn't he?
Yeah. So I secured that for him last week. Mauro at the WBC, very excited about him. I sent him some tapes over, and I got a phone call straight back saying, "Yes, please. Yeah. We'd love him to be attached to the WBC."
For him,
so we'll get his opponent. We've got his opponent. We'll probably put that out tomorrow or the following day. But yeah, so it's his 8th fight, and we've got him a title fight. And I just think, you know, in reaction, you can imagine what he was like anyway. If you tell him he's got a 6-rounder, he's happy.
Yeah. He wants to fight,
but he can fight. Yeah. He can really fight. And when I met Louis, first thing I thought of where I think he'd be most comfortable training is definitely with Martin at the Peacock, because it needed channeling. That enthusiasm needed channeling. It needed focus. It needed focus and direction. And Martin is just, you know, I think it's a match made in heaven. I think, you know, and they both get along so well. And I know Louis would absolutely gel with the other guys in that gym. And one thing you do in that gym is you work hard, so Louis right at home in there.
It just occurred to me, as I was thinking of the next couple of names in my head who you look after, and they're all of a similar ilk as Louis, like Sam Knox and Muhammad Ali. I mean, these boys fight. They don't box, they fight. Is that something you particularly look for?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I love a natural boxer as much as, you know, as an ex-boxing fan. It's beautiful to watch, but I think in these early stages of these guys' careers, if they can come out all guns blazing without necessarily taking unnecessary risks, it catches people's eye, and it becomes a lot easier to market them. It becomes a lot easier to get them dates. And I mean, Sam Knox, he's the full package. He's exciting, apart from he's a bit funny looking, but no, I'm joking. He's, you know, he's a good looking kid.
Like he's
such a gentleman. He's respectful. His family are boxing through and through. He's got a great family, lovely people. Absolutely, you know, love catching up with them when he fights. And again, you know, him and Alan Smith, it's about channeling that aggression that Sam's got, and with Alan, he's learning how to look after himself as well in terms of, you know, not taking shots.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a development with that.
Of course it is. Of course it is, and they're, you know, and they're all youngsters. They're all young men who just are enthusiastic. They are full of what's the phrase? Piss and vinegar. That's what I like. That's a good. You know, they just want to do it. They can't wait to fight. They're excited to go to the gym. They all want to earn good money. They all want to win titles, and this is their careers. They're not making numbers up here. And Muhammad Ali, I think, you know, out of all of them, his amateur background probably is the best. He had a awkward and abrupt end to his amateur career, which has been dealt with. He's had a right crappy year, to be honest, because his
debut was a bit.
Well, the debut was crap. I mean, the opponent. I mean,
what can you do?
It is what it is. So I was almost looking forward to his re-debut, if you like, to have another go at it. Excuse me. And he's had to, for reasons that will become clear in a couple of days, he has to come off the show next week. So it's again, it's very disappointing for him. But we will get him out, and we will continue to try and work as hard as we can for him.
Carol Italma, a Olympic youth gold medalist. That's not a bad bit of pedigree, is it? I think he's a light heavyweight. He looks the part, he sounds the part. We haven't seen him yet, but when can we expect to see him?
Carol was in last week, just coming for a catch up. He's on light heavyweight weight at the moment. He thought he may have go at cruiser, but you know, he can make light heavyweight comfortably. He's got a really good nutritionist, dietitian, strength and conditioning coach. He's got a very, very good trainer who's looked after him for years. Great sponsor in Jamie. So the team he's got around him is brilliant. You know, it's a really, really good team. And in terms of him as a fighter, I mean, you just got to go and watch the videos. It's just class. It's a delight to watch. And you talk about those, you know, the other three guys we're talking about, Louis, Sam, and Mohammed being, you know, explosive. Carol, I think, you know, you've got that class, slick boxer who can bang as well. So, you know, those four guys. I mean, there are. We'll talk about the others, but those four guys are phenomenal fighters.
You have to help me out here. Who else comes under your managerial wing?
We've got Keeman Aguilar,
of course, yeah,
who for me will be a world champion. I mean, you know, the other guys are at earlier stage, but I think Keeman, he's already shown little flickers of that class that you think, yeah, he's got it. He's 100% got it.
He's quite ferocious, isn't he? So.
Yeah, and he's different, I think, and he won't. I don't think he can forgive me saying this, but he's got a different mentality than the other guys. I think he's slightly older beyond his years.
He's only 23.
He's only 23, but he takes himself quite seriously, Keegan, which is good, because I don't know. It always feels like he's always got a point to prove, even in the conversations with him, because. And that's what, you know, that's what I admire about him. He's so dead set on what he wants to do, and he doesn't really give a shit if he pisses anyone off. He doesn't give a shit if he annoys anyone. He just gets on with it because he knows he can do it, and we'll believe he can do it.
He's quite intense.
Very intense. That's exactly the word. Yeah.
So, is he quite hard going? As like once he's had a fight, and then he wants to know what's happening next?
No, he's quite relaxed in that respect, but he'll always let you know if he's not happy about something. Which is boxing. You know, certain things don't always go to plan, but he's actually going to fight week Friday, so we'll get him out again. Probably just in a 6 or an 8, but I just wanted to keep him ticking over because he had a good win over Jez Smith.
Good fight, man.
It was a good fight. I think had that been in front of a crowd, he probably would have got Jez out there a little bit earlier. And full credit to Jez, he come and had a right go. Yeah. But I think that's one of the stand-up fights we've had on the studio shows thus far, which is why we're all keen to get him out again this side of Christmas, because that Christmas break, I think, especially this year, is going to seem like an age, and I wanted to make sure he was busy. He's a busy fighter, a happy fighter. So hopefully he'll go for Christmas with a smile.
Don't count on it. Who else is in the Francis bubble?
We have got some serious. I mean, Henry Turner. You know, he's with my dad, and I'm very excited about him. Very excited about him.
Written all over him.
I think he's a terrific young fighter, and you know, I think he'll go a very, very long way. But the, I mean, all the Polish guys as well.
Oh,
I mean, you know, we're looking after all these guys. You know, it's getting pretty busy now. Yeah,
haven't you, probably?
Yeah, probably. We're not far off actually. We're not far off at all. You know, and some international guys as well. We've got a Russian called Sharifov who's going to turn pro in January, and Kovalchuk is a Russian kid. I'm quite excited about.
Well, we are going to have to work on these names, aren't we? Sort of.
Yeah, I'll have to. Is it phonetics? I have to get them all out for you.
Yeah,
so we'll
also typing them.
Yeah,
typing them out.
I mean, you know, and there's a few other guys that we're just turning pro at the moment. But you know, I think we'll save them for when they're done and dusted. But I think we can safely say that we're going to have a good end to the year. We've got these 3 shows coming up.
I want to get your thoughts on those shows while you've got that in your mind. The next one, Heffron Bentley. What was your take on that last fight? I thought it was great, you know, sort of. But did you take anything from it that helps you with the next fight?
No.
No.
I mean, I've got my opinion on it, and I've got my opinion on the first fight as well. I think it's one of 2 ways. I think whoever starts quickest, and who gets into their stride first. Because I don't think if someone gets a stranglehold on that fight. Early doors like 1, 2 or 3, I don't think they're going to let it go. Yeah. I think Mark obviously he got put over with a good shot. I mean, people saying it was off balance and things like that. It was a good shot.
Got caught square a bit.
Yeah. But I thought Denzel then relaxed too much middle rounds, and it was a good finish.
Into the corners a bit, didn't it?
And it was a good finish to the fight. So I think a draw was a fair result. However, I think the second one is literally who starts best. Because I think they might both be confidence fighters, these guys, and I think if one of them goes over early again, I think there could be trouble.
They're both fighting for a big next year in some respects, because if Mark wins, he wants to fight at Boundary Park, Oldham Athletic. He's got a massive following up there. People really get behind him. He's fighting for that. Denzel's fighting to sort of stay with Daniel Dubois and his teammates on the London gig. So they both got a bit to lose, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean they're both. I know, although Mark's been pro a lot longer and had more fights, I think they're both at a very similar stage. By no means the end of the world for the loser. Just be a crap end to the year, I suppose. But you know, the loser will definitely come again. But the winner does kick on quite quickly. And there's some decent fights out there for the winner. And I tell you, I back at British level, back the winner against anyone in the UK.
Well, it's for the British title, and the board notices said they've got to waive grace and fight Felix Cash. I don't think any of them would lose any sleep over that.
No, absolutely not. So. No.
Then we go into Dubois Joyce. I said to you, Dad, he became the most popular man in boxing when he announced that was on normal TV over that period of time on social media. I've never seen so much gratitude, an outpouring of gratitude in one afternoon.
I know.
I mean, you can't go wrong with that fight, can you?
No, and as a fan, there's no bigger fight. I don't think. Certainly in the UK, there's no bigger fight, domestic fight. Winner goes on to big things very quickly because it's a catapult fight, isn't it? I'm keeping quiet on it, but
you got to, I mean, yeah.
I think it's a terrific fight, and you've got to say fair play to both guys, because it's on linear, and it's not going to cost anyone extra money, and
millions seeing it.
It's exactly, and I think you just got to take your hat off to Daniel and to Joe for both saying, yeah, come on, let's get it on, let's do it now, because they could have sat tight till waiting for crowd to come back in, but they might lose a year of their careers. So it's
they got other fights they want to be getting on with. Of course they have.
Of course they have.
December 5th, not only the Ring Magazine WBC World Heavyweight Champion, but also Yard and Arthur, massive fight at light heavyweight, domestic clash. That night at the Albert Hall, is it still at the Albert Hall? Mm-hmm. Don't get much bigger than that, does it?
No, it's brilliant. I don't think anyone would have expected to finish the year at the Albert Hall. But
made for it though, in a way, isn't it?
It is, and even it's very strange with no one in there. Yeah. It would look a bit like a Coliseum with no one in there, won't it? Because you've got the pillars, and I'm sure the lighting and everything's going to look fantastic, and we'll make a real show of it. Yeah. But really looking forward to seeing Tyson back, and Anthony and Lyndon. It's another ding dong.
That's got people thinking, that fight, because people are saying he could have problems there, Anthony, with Lyndon's jab. If he sort of keeps him on the end of that long, awkward jab, it's not a pitter-patter jab either, is it? It's a jab that hurts, you know.
But it was. I mean, I was quite surprised that Lyndon had trouble when he won the Commonwealth. That was up in Leeds, wasn't it? You know, I think he thought he'd stopped. I forget the guy's name now.
Yeah.
I think he thought he was going to stop him when he put him over quite early on, and I think maybe just knocked the wind out of him a bit when he got up because it wasn't Lyndon thereafter. Yeah. However, he really did look like the old Lyndon, and snapping that jab out in his last fight, like you said, it was just bang, bang, bang all night long.
Anthony's going to find a way around that, isn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, Anthony's
fun to watch.
More aggressive. He's going to be throwing more punches and more angles. But like I say, if that jab starts propelling backwards and forwards, then that's a problem for anyone, isn't it?
Absolutely is, yeah. Absolutely is.
All right. It's been a long, productive year in awful circumstances, really. I mean, you've just pumped out 8 shows since July the 10th.
Yeah.
Another 3 that we know of to come.
3 and the 21st November. So that's 4.
Yeah, 4. So
that'll be 12 shows in. How many weeks is that? You know.
Yeah. And your dad says you're going to keep on churning right through January, where we don't normally, not much normally happens because of tickets and all that, and Christmas finances. January, February. It could be as busy a period as you've known in recent years, I guess.
It is. Well, we just want to keep our guys busy. You know, we'll work from, you know, first thing in the morning to the last thing at night to make sure that these guys get as much work as possible. And that's all we want is to get our guys out, continuing their careers, because no one can afford to take a year off, you know, in this sport, because it's a competition for places, and you're talking about, you know, places on shows, places in the British rankings, places in European rankings, and then up to worlds. Everyone still wants to progress. You know, if you take a year off, someone else will, you know, won't take a year off, and they'll be ahead of you. So we've got to keep our guys busy, and keep the momentum going. You know, case in point with Keevan, for example, just even if it's a 6 or an 8 rounder, just get him out. There's been a lovely keep him in the limelight.
Emphasis and priority on the younger fighters. Yes, you've had your headliners, you've got to have them, but your priority and the care you've shown has been for the younger group of fighters to make sure they don't get lost to the game, and a lot will.
Absolutely. Well, they've got to, and what's been nice for us as well is that every time we've called upon one of these guys, you know, if there's been a late dropout, for example, and we say, right, you're fit, everyone's ready to go. So, you know, I know a lot of, you know, maybe fighters who haven't got contracts, you know, elsewhere in the country have had to go and get themselves some jobs because, you know, food, you know, put food on the table and provide for their families, which is you know, which everyone has to do. But the guys that we look after, all of them are consummate professionals. All of them are fit and ready to go at the drop of a hat, and it's shown that because we've not had one empty slot. We've filled every single one, and most of our guys would have been at least twice between July and December.
Fantastic job, Francis. Thank you very much.
Thanks, mate.